Hercules Country Club years ago used to have a tournament, a fundraiser for leukemia, and they always brought people in. You know, they had Greg Norman there and Peter Jacobson and great guys. And one year they brought in Fred and Ben Crenshaw and me. They asked me because they did a little exhibition before, and that was something. And it was really cool that was probably 10 years after I met Fred, and I bumped into him at the US Amateur the next year, and he remembered me. And then it was like 10 years later, you know, I see him at Hercules, and hey Blaise, how you doing? You ever talk to the Nelsons? You know, it was just like it's amazing that he, you know, remembered me. I thought that was really cool. But I remember doing that little exhibition, you know, and of course I went first, and I was hitting some 6-irons out there, and you know, nobody said ooh and ah, but boy, when Fred got up and he hit that first 8-iron, it just whistled through the air, you know, that was really cool. I remember that. I also remember playing that last round in the Northeast Amateur with Jay Sigel and Scott Plank, and Sigel was my idol. The only time I ever got a quote in golf world was after that tournament, because they asked me, and I just, you know, I had said something about Jay and how I admired him, and but I remember standing on the 6th green, and he was over this like 20-footer, and I was off to the side of the green, and I looked over, and he just looked bigger than life. I mean, he just looked like, you know, a god. And of course he made the putt and went on to win, and I'll never forget that either. He just, you know, I guess people that you look up to, that happens. My wife and I ran a charity tournament to raise money for a child care center for the Ministry of Caring in Wilmington, and we only did it a couple years, but the second year Jay came down and did a little exhibition and played in it, and I played with him and the sports writer from the Wilmington News Journal, Tom Tomaszek. And there was a fourth in the group, I forget who it was, but I remember on the 7th hole at DuPont, Tom was over under a tree off to the side of the green, big pine tree, and he's kind of backed into it, found his ball, and we were up on the green, Jay and I, and Tom was a funny guy and loved golf, and so he backs into the tree and he bumps this shot out, and it hits short of the green, hops over the rough, runs up on the green, breaks around, hits the pin, drops in the hole. And he comes out of the tree, you know, happy as could be, and he's walking up to the green, and Jay walks over to the hole, and he picks the ball out of the hole. He said, top flight 1? And Tom's like, no. And Jay was just fooling with him, you know, it was his ball, but you could have seen Tom's face when he said, top flight 1? He was just awesome. He was the only guy that the first guy that I played with that if he needed to on a long par 4 or par 5, he could hit his drive 20 yards further. I had never met, you know, I thought everybody just hit it as far as they could every time, and he did it. And he was the best of all the amateurs that I ever, you know, played with. You know, he was plenty long enough. His swing was just so repetitive, and he was a great putter and chipper. Yeah, he was like the guy that I could mimic my game after. He drove the ball so well, and then putted. I thought he was the best wedge player in the Philadelphia area, and I can back that up with a story playing the Hugh Wilson one year. I was playing in front of Buddy, and we were standing on the 5th tee waiting for the fairway to clear, and Buddy was on the 4th fairway, the par 5, with probably 90 yards in, and the pin was just on the front of the green, just over the little creek there. And one of the guys I was playing with, he was from out of town, I forget where, and he said, who's that guy? Buddy was standing over his shot, and he said, who's that guy? And I said, oh, that's Buddy MARUCCI. I said, he's the best wedge player around Philadelphia. I said, watch this shot. So Buddy hits this shot, and he hit it fat as fat could be, and it landed right in the middle of the creek. And it hit something, and it bounced up 6 feet from the hole. And I looked at the guy, I said, see? And he made it for birdie. And yeah, Buddy he was just, his whole game was good. You know, he just drove the ball good and putted good and was really a good wedge player. Chris was just long and had that, you know, attitude where nothing fazed him. And he could make a lot of birdies, and he putted good, and but really could hit it far. And I remember the year that he had qualified for the Nike Tour. I guess then it was the Hogan Tour, and he came back for the Delaware Open, and he won that. And I remember watching him play the last maybe 3 or 4 holes, and his game was really good then. It was really impressive. His short game had gotten really good from competing at that. He was just good. I always still enjoy playing with Chris. And yeah, he just had an all-around game, but his length was really a key. He just could overpower a lot of courses. Chris is just, you know, solid from tee to green, but he just drove the ball, hit a lot of fairways, and made a lot of putts, and you know that beats an awful lot of people. I learned. Yeah, he beat me in, it might have been the quarterfinals. I forget where. Rolling Green, I think.
Yes.
And. You know, he hit it pretty far. He was, you know, he had that short backswing, but he ripped it pretty good, and you know, so he had the length. Philly amateur matches and making 16 pars to beat him. But he was, you know, he didn't have the length that I remember. But you know, he was just solid. He, you know, kept it in play. Made a lot of pars, didn't make any mistakes. I have a lot of great memories of Bucky. He was always, when I was younger, he was a guy you heard about, but you never met, you'd never, and so I had heard about him quite a bit. And you know, we instantly kind of became friends. My best memory ever was the year at the Eastern Four-Ball. I think that was '83. It was a 3-round tournament at Columbia Country Club, and we had a 1-shot lead playing 18, and it was Henry Delosier, and I forget who his partner were. They were the guys that finished right before us, and they were 1 back. And 18 was a pretty tough hole, if I remember right, and I missed the green just short. Bucky hit it on, but just on the front, the pin was back over a mound, and I chipped up 12 feet past, and Bucky putted maybe 8 or 10 feet past. So Bucky putted first and missed, and then I made this 12-footer, and Bucky will probably be mad that I said this, but he came over and hugged me. But it was the funnest. I think, you know, better balls are always more fun to win because you have somebody that you won with, and boy, that was really fun to win. It was really, especially being, you know, from Delaware and gone down and beating, you know, Henry Delosier on his course, you know, in his section. But Bucky and I had a lot of fun playing golf.